Okay, I'm going to take you around the arcade cabinet table. You should see on the bottom of the screen here, there's 2 rows of green buttons. Yeah, I think you can just see that. Obviously 2 on the other side as well. So it's player 1 controls and player 2 controls, and then a couple of things in the middle. But yeah, this is the table itself. There's a 24-inch screen set into the middle, which looks pretty invisible when it's off. There's a slightly tinted Perspex top, and it's about 10 centimeters all the way around, where you can use that as a table with the rest of it if you use it in the game. If you're not playing on it, you can use the whole thing as a table as much as you like. Let me show you the on switch just in the middle here. You see it's actually, before I do that, you see it's already lit up. It's an option. There's obviously a Windows PC at the heart of this, and that is set at the moment to leave the USB sockets on even when the machine is actually not powered up. So I'll just press the power button there. You see the power button lights up, and it should start up pretty quickly. So it is quite a high spec PC for this. It is, see, it's got a Republic of Gamers motherboard as well, which I just find them really compatible. They last a really long time. They're just really reliable. It has an i5 processor, Intel i5, which is plenty for doing this sort of thing. Also, the operating system is installed on a solid state drive. It's 256 gig solid state, and that means it starts up this quick. So you see we're already in Windows, and then any second now the user interface will start up, because it's a special user interface for getting through all the arcade games. That should come up any second now. I didn't quite time that right, did I? Okay, so then we're in the main interface. Hyperspin is a wonderful interface, but it takes a huge amount of setting up to get it to the stage where we are now. I'm sure you'll see that after just a few minutes of looking around this, you'll kind of get a feeling for just how much goes into this. So, the games are grouped together, and there are a couple of types, so that you can kind of find systems. So there are old Atari 2600s, well, all the Ataris ever. And there are also groups like we saw when it came on, which was Angry Birds. So that's a group of Angry Bird games, and that could be across all systems. So there are kind of a couple of ways that they're grouped together. So let's look at just like a simple Atari system to begin with. So I just go up and down on the joystick to that, and press the main button. And then this is the system itself. So these are now the games that are on that Atari. And you can see a little picture of the box. You can see a video of what it's going to look like. And this over on the side, this wheel is all the games that are on it. As you see, absolutely loads, and you don't need to start it to see what it is. You can just see a video of it straight away. Brilliant. So that works really well. Then if we go back to the main wheel, we see all the other systems. Let's get to something that's a little more modern. There's everything on here, like some of the Capcom things, let's say. Okay, so this is obviously a very famous machine because it did Street Fighter 2. So we'll click on this and then we'll see what games are in there. So these are all the Capcom games on that system. Let me see, there's various Street Fighter ones. And I would guess things that are fairly similar to Street Fighter. So there are quite a lot of these things on the market. Arcade cabinet things in different formats and in different systems. Some of them have a lot of games on them, but they're probably not games you want to play very much. Some of them have just a few games on there. They're probably okay, but you're going to get bored of it. This has best of both because it does have really old things like this, but it also has really modern things too, and it has everything from my youth. If you grew up playing video games, every game you'll ever have played will be on this system. So it's just fantastic for reliving your youth, going back through games that you've forgotten about. There's just everything, and it's like you know, Burger Time was a great game, and you don't want to play it for years, but actually now and again you want to have a quick go on it, and it's just, you know, it's one of 100,000 odd games on here, so you know you're not gonna get bored. Like the Data East stuff, this is what I grew up with. So let's give it a second to wake up. So Ghostbusters. So things like, I think Data East did RoboCop, I'm pretty sure. Here we go. So this is the RoboCop arcade game. I used to go to the Chippy, let's start this up. I used to go to the Chippy and put so much money in this while we were waiting for our chips to do. So you can see I've started a game now. So I press the button, again, main button to start it. It just takes a couple of seconds, doesn't take long at all. And there we go, it's starting now. And this is so vivid for me, like vivid memories of this, because it's not like, oh, this is a bit like what the game was. It's the actual code. It's the actual code that was in that arcade machine all those years ago. So it is identical. And while you might think, I thought it used to be better than this, this is exactly what it used to be like. So all you got to do is press the coin button, and you see the credits going up. It thinks you put money in, and then you press one player start, and then we go. And I you know, like I say, put a lot of money into this. So yeah, there we go. So I'm, you know, playing for free what I would have paid my little 10p's for all those years ago. Gets his little gun out now. Ooh. Oh, rookie mistakes. Ooh. Anyway, I'm not here to boast about my RoboCop skills. And then, so once you're done with the game and you want to go back to the main interface, you just hold down the player start button for a couple of seconds, and we're back to the wheel. So, for instance, Outrun, classic game of my youth. You know, and everything you could ever think of will be on this list. I used to play something called Sunset Riders. So I'm at O, so if I press right, then I can go through letters at a time. So I'm going through S, and then I scroll down the S's looking for Sunset Riders. And this is one of those that I think works really well on the joysticks, and I think it's 4 players. Where are we? Guys, K, S-O, S-O. What am I looking for? Sunset Riders, that's U. That's T, we're getting there. You see, you're kind of getting an idea of how many. Oh. Alright, the sequels, I think there we go, Sunset Riders. 1991, Jesus. So anyway, so I press the start button on this. Okay, so in MAME there's literally, like I said, every arcade game ever. And some of them better than others. Well, some of them more recent than others, you know. What's this, 1996? So let's start this one up. As you can see, they all run really well. They all start up really quickly. I'm enjoying this as a table as well. Right, so, this is another thing where, you know, on the arcade machine it would have, I think this was something you stood on and you kind of swept your feet from side to steer, I think. Let's have a look. Let's get it started as soon as I can. Okay, and there we go. So you just kind of, again, you see it started really quickly, it's running really well. So that's MAME. So MAME is a huge part of this. I spend a lot of my time just in the MAME section because there's just everything in there. And then, also this is a collection. So I talked about how there's collections of games that cross systems. So obviously Mario Kart is, you know, extremely famous. And this is probably the one that, you know, made it famous when the Super Nintendo came out, 1992, geez. So, try and not get all nostalgic. But so this is, as you can see, now become Super NES straight away. So I'll just start it really quick so you can see. And there you go. And there we go, we're in the game already. Oh, rookie. Easy life. Anyway, so. Okay, mental note, don't get carried away with games. So, let's go back to the main list. So yeah, so I guess what else is on the list? There'll be a load of systems that you've never heard of the name of, but you'll know some of the games it made. So like Midway, they did, Mortal Kombat they did, Killer Instinct obviously, a few driving ones that you might remember. And these are all the different systems, you know, so you can just go through loads of retro stuff that you know, may or may not remember, I don't know. Anyway, so I love the Midway stuff. Like I say, I do spend a lot of time in Maine because it's basically everything. I think that's basically the core of it, is that I don't even know how many thousand games there are in Maine. And there's a few fun things in there as well. Namco's great, there's some really nice old games in there. Yeah, I remember a few of those. So, and then you get into consoles. There are loads of consoles on here too. The Nintendo 64, and there are just thousands of games within each one. You know, I don't think anybody knows the total of what's supported through Hyperspin now. Paperboy, that was classic. Oh, it's better on the N64 than the arcade ones. N64, and then like the classic arcade stuff of Nintendo, because you haven't noticed they're alphabetical, so it's Nintendo, Game Boy, and then so stuff like the Game Boy. If you play these, it changes the screen a little bit. So let's see. Like obviously Super Mario World would be the one to do. Super Mario Land. There you go. If that music doesn't rile something in you, then you didn't grow up at the same time as I did. There you go. So you can see it looks like Game Boy, obviously. Yeah, and so you play it on a huge Game Boy. They've sort of good one. They've smoothed off the graphics, so it actually looks a little bit better than it did back then. It's running smoother than it used to. It looks great, I think. And it's cool to have something that is, so big, like this huge Game Boy thing, and still be able to play these classics. Yeah, so that's Game Boys, and obviously Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Colors. GameCube was actually a good console. I had one of those for a long time. It just goes on and on. And then, so what do we get after? Oh, so Wii stuff. So some of the Wii stuff, obviously, is really dependent on those nunchuck things. So you're just not going to be able to play those. I mean, you can actually get USB nunchucks and plug them in. I think you could probably do that if you were really keen, but I couldn't tell you how to set that up. So, that's up to you if you want to go that route. But they're on there. But there are games that you could play, without that. So, any of the controller games, they seem to work fine. So that's Wii, there's Wii U, and that's the same. I think that had quite a specific controller for that. So, you can see it there. So, some of those might be a little tricky. I don't know what this is. Okay. So there's another, like loads of Pac-Man selections. I'm a big fan of Pac-Man myself. Pang was classic games, some PC games on there. Coming into the Sega section, you see the Dreamcast. And Dreamcast similar because it used to have the little D-pad thing and the joystick as well, so the analog joystick. So you kind of need an analog joystick to play a lot of these games. So this is one that you need to do by plugging in the controller, like I said, plugging into it doesn't need to be a Dreamcast controller, obviously. A little Xbox 360 controller is best. Game Gears, God, it just goes on and on. Mega Drive, I used to have Castle of Illusion, I remember well. What would that be? There we go.
Extracting file. Extraction complete.
There we go.